Hello there, welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Your headlines in the southeast. An Old Bailey jury has shown CCTV pictures of the man accused of murdering Sir David Amess heading to Southend, where he told the MP's assistant, "I don't think I'll take long."
P&O responds tonight to the government's ultimatum about the sacked ferry workers and comes out fighting. It says its compensation package runs to almost £37 million.
Also tonight, a ban on lighting up. But what do people in Brighton think about the council getting tough on instant beach barbecues?
And Ramsgate reunion. The children who hid in the town's tunnels during the Second World War return to share their memories. Good evening. A terror suspect threatened to kill 4 more people after launching a frenzied attack on Sir David Amess, the court has heard. On arrival at the church in Essex where the attack happened, the accused told the MP's assistant he wouldn't take long.
A jury at the Old Bailey heard Ali Harbi Ali stab the veteran Tory MP 21 times after arranging an appointment in Leigh-on-Sea last October. Joe Coshin's report contains some distressing detail.
Please, quick now. The man is wielding a knife.
This is just a segment of the frantic 6-minute 999 call played in court today.
He's threatened me. He's killed David Amess at Belfast Methodist Church.
That voice is Julie Cushion, reporting the moment her boss, Sir David Amess, was killed.
But we need an ambulance as well. He wants to get shot, apparently. He wants to be a hero. He wants the police to come and shoot him.
All right, just take deep breaths. All right, keep taking deep breaths. We've got armed units on route. Hey?
He's going to try and stab you.
Ali Harbi Ali stands accused of Sir David's murder. Today, the jury was shown CCTV pieced together by police from hundreds of hours of footage, showing Ali wearing a khaki coat, travelling from his home near Gospel Oak train station in North London to the constituency surgery in Essex. Here he is calmly stepping aside to let a woman off the train when he arrives at Leigh-on-Sea, before walking to his 12 o'clock meeting. Ali secured that appointment by posing as a constituent by giving staff a false postcode. The court was shown an email chain where Ali said he was a healthcare worker moving to the area and wanted to get to know his MP. He finished the conversation with, "I don't know how long the appointments are, but I don't think it'll take too long." 55 kilometres and a 2.5-hour journey. The prosecution previously told jurors, though, this was not a spur-of-the-moment decision. They say Ali had planned an attack for many years. He denies murder and a charge of preparing acts of terrorism. The trial continues tomorrow. Joe Coshin, ITV News at the Old Bailey.
And you can find more on today's top stories on our website. The address itv.com/Meridian.
COVID rates across the region are continuing to rise, but the rate is slowing according to the latest government data. In the 7 days up to March the 16th, Ashford's cases were up by almost 60% to 1,150 cases per 100,000. Folkestone was up 40% and Wealdon more than 50%.
Meanwhile, rail bosses say they've treated their 20,000th train with coronavirus-killing disinfectant. The Southern Gatwick Express and Thameslink fleets have all been cleansed with the long-lasting viricide in the hope of boosting passenger confidence. Govia Thameslink say the detergent kills the virus for weeks at a time.
Chagos Islanders living in Sussex are welcoming changes to the law which will make it easier for their grandchildren to become British citizens. Thousands of people were deported from the islands in the 60s and 70s, with a large community settling in Crawley. Until now, their descendants had no automatic right to British citizenship. Today, MPs voted to amend the law, giving grandchildren equal rights.
The government has concluded it would be appropriate to take action in this bill, consistent with our other measures designed to correct historical unfairness in nationality law, and will put forward an amendment as such. This will mean a new route to British nationality for direct descendants of the Chagossians removed from the British Indian Ocean Territory.
The Government gave the embattled ferry company P&O until 5 o'clock this afternoon to answer accusations about its brutal and crass management style, which saw 800 workers sacked.
Well, in the last hour, the ferry giant has come out fighting, saying its financial settlement is worth almost £37 million for employees and that no redundancies would have led to the collapse of the company. Well, let's go live to Dover and to Abigail Bracken. And quite a strong statement from the company in the last hour or so, Abby.
Yes, P&O Ferries claims that it has offered the largest compensation package in the British maritime sector of nearly £37 million. And I'm joined now by Lee Davison of the RMT union here in Dover. Now, you were among the 800 staff that were sacked without notice. Is the compensation package enough?
No, certainly not. For a company that's pleading poverty to find £37 million down the back of the sofa, it must be fantastic. Our guys don't want compensation, they don't want redundancy, they want their jobs back. The jobs that they worked there for years. The guys that were promised that they were the future of the company, and they've had the rug pulled from under them.
And P&O Ferry said that they risk going into administration if they didn't make these job losses. And, for example, they are going to give 13 weeks' salary in lieu of notice and 13 weeks on top of that because they didn't have a consultation period. Does that make up for the way in which you were sacked?
No, not at all. We've worked proactively with the company, or I have since I became a union rep back in 2011. We've dealt with everything with them. They've done this behind our backs. They've tried to sneak it through the media with what's going on in Ukraine. It's an absolute disgrace. The money that they're offering is unacceptable. And you've got people on hundreds of £1,000s a year blaming people on £26,000 a year that the failure of the company is their fault. It's not. It's mismanagement and bad decisions by the board.
And what do you think about suggestions that they are going to bring in lower paid workers from abroad to try and fill the 800 roles that they've got?
Absolutely disgusting, and the safety implications are unbearable, unthinkable. I've been a seafarer now for 30 years, in my current role on and off for the last 8 years, and you have to know what you're doing. Safety is paramount on these ships, and the guys that they've brought in that are being trained by an experienced crew, and they're not going to be up to speed, and anyone that goes on these ships is putting their life at risk.
Lee Davison from the RMT, thank you ever so much. Now, it's been 5 days since there have been any sailings, P&O sailings, ferry sailings here from Dover, and because of that, the Highways Highways England has decided to introduce Operation Brock on the M20 so that they can stack lorries along there should it be necessary, and to try and stop Dover from becoming gridlock. You can see that there are some lorries on Jubilee Way here behind me, and while we wait to see how long it will be before the P&O ferries can set sail again.
OK, Abigail in Dover for us this evening. Thank you very much. Next tonight, a homeowner has said he and his family are lucky to be alive after a bus crashed into his house in Tunbridge Wells. Emergency services were called to the crash in Gregswood Road just before 8 p.m. last night. Daniel Septimu said he was watching TV with his wife and his 4-year-old daughter was sleeping when he heard the crash.
Groups of migrants were brought ashore in Dover yesterday. More than 2,500 people have made the dangerous crossing so far this year. That's 3 times more than in mid-March last year.
Doctors and paramedics from the southeast are among those taking part in an aid convoy to Ukraine. The team is planning to deliver supplies to the Polish border before some go on to help the sick and injured in Ukraine itself.
They also aim to transport refugees back across Europe to France. It's the second trip organised by a 25-year-old mechanic from Kent, as Malcolm Shaw will now tell us.
The function room of the Leicester Arms pub in Penshurst, repurposed as a sorting centre for aid to Ukraine. This team of volunteers is about to set off from Kent to drive over 1,000 miles to deliver all the assistance they can. Among them is paramedic Shane Woolmore, packing vital medical supplies for the sick and the injured.
My plan is to render aid to the guys down in Poland initially. I've been in touch with the Ukrainian government via a form, and basically the idea is to enter Ukraine as soon as I can, to go to wherever and wherever hospital I'm needed at to help the doctors and nurses out there and the ambulance staff that's already there.
The trip has been organised by Arthur Smith, a mechanic from Tunbridge. It's the second mission the 25-year-old has led so far. The team he's assembled will travel to Poland, and some of the medics will go on into Ukraine itself.
So we have advanced trauma surgeons, paramedics that have taken annual leave. We have construction workers coming out to have a look at maybe pop-up hospitals. We also have translators coming with us to help us speak Ukrainian and Russian. We feel that we can do this because we have the ability to do it, and there are a lot of people out there that can't and want to do something, but we've got the capacity, and now we've got an excellent team behind us to be able to go out there and hopefully help.
Among the volunteers is Mark Chanowski. He's travelled all the way from California to take part. Mark was born in Ukraine. His sister still lives there.
I have families and friends in Kiev also, who every day we talk, every evening, every morning, and they tell me we're going to win, we're going to stay here. And it's unbelievable, the strength of these people. You know, when I hear this, I want to help anybody. I want to be there and I want to help. I'm not going to cross the border, but at least we're going to bring the help, medication, doctors, whatever we can help with.
Once the team have delivered the supplies and done what they can on the ground, they'll turn their attention to helping refugees, planning to drive them back across Europe to a centre in Normandy. Malcolm Shaw, ITV News, Tunbridge.
Well, meanwhile, fire crews from Kent and Sussex have been to the Polish border to hand over a fleet of fire engines and equipment to firefighters in Ukraine.
It's the biggest UK fire service convoy, made up of 22 vehicles and more than 5,000 items of kit, and is supported by the charity Fire Aid. The team left via Dover at the weekend.
Well, let's talk to Roy Barraclough, Station Commander at Shoreham Fire Station in Sussex. Roy, good to catch up with you. First of all, was the mission successful?
Yes, it was. I'm very pleased to say that we delivered the fire engines yesterday to a location in eastern Poland, and we delivered them to the Polish Fire Service, who are dealing with the logistics here, and will then be passing them on to the Ukrainian Fire Service in the next couple of days.
Just give us an idea of where all the equipment came from, how you got hold of it all.
The project is a joint one between the National Fire Chiefs Council and Fire Aid as a charity. So it's between the UK Fire Service and charities. An appeal went out for fire engines and equipment, and this was gathered very quickly in Kent and all put together within a week or so, and as now just was part of this convoy. The partnership work with this has been absolutely amazing. Different fire services and different charities all working together in order to achieve a common goal, which basically is to help our brothers and sisters who are working under such terrible conditions and dealing with an unimaginable situation in Ukraine. We all see that in the newsreel every day.
And Roy, you said you were met by Polish firefighters. Did you have any contact with Ukrainian firefighters, and did you get any sense of what the equipment might be used for?
Yes, I did. I met a Ukrainian colonel there, had a brief conversation with him, and several of his fire engines have been damaged in attacks. One was completely written off when it hit a road mine. So they're very, very much in need of replacement equipment. These fire engines are generally equipped with road cutting equipment and things like airbags, and that sort of equipment can be very, very useful when dealing with collapsed structures in order to remove people from that situation. So whilst not fully equipped to the sort of standard that we might expect in the UK, they've got a really lot of valuable equipment on them that are going to be very good for the fire service in Ukraine.
Well, Roy, it's an amazing thing that you guys have all done there. We just wish you a really safe journey home. Thank you for talking to us on the programme.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to do it, and very proud to have been part of this mission and representing the UK Fire Service in this way.
Brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant stuff. Now, you're watching ITV News in the Meridian region. Still to come on the programme.
Going underground, the children who sheltered from German bombs in these tunnels return once more.
More, of course, from us on our website. Details on the screen. Also, how you can get in touch with us, and also the best way to follow us online.
Now to the calls for more people from minority ethnic backgrounds to donate their organs after death.
In 2020, the law on organ donation changed, meaning adults would automatically be considered for organ donation when they die unless they choose to opt out.
But figures show that when the new rules were introduced, there was a spike in the number of people from Black and Asian communities opting out. Amani Khan has more.
Aisha is one of thousands of people waiting for a kidney transplant across the country. But due to her ethnicity, statistically, she's likely to have to wait 6 years for a donor kidney to become available, double the average wait for someone who's white. Aisha is campaigning to raise awareness.
A majority of the problem is fear and lack of education and not understanding how the process works. And I understand that. I just think that they're actually doing more harm as a community than good, because you'll see more of people from Bangladeshi community and Pakistani backgrounds passing away whilst waiting for a kidney donor to step forward.
The law around organ donation recently changed. England moved to an opt-out system in 2020, meaning everyone now has their organs donated when they die unless they actively opt out, although families must still give their consent. Back in 2020, just days before the new legislation was due to be introduced, I was sent messages on WhatsApp telling me how important it is to opt out. That's why, when I did some research and dug into the figures, I wasn't surprised by what I found. During the first year of the new opting out rules, NHS data shows 71%, that's more than 2 in every 3 people who signed up to opt out, were recorded as being from a BAME background. More than half of those were recorded as being Asian.
There's a significant number of people who have opted out, as you've identified. When we look at that over the entire duration of opt-out and just on the general how many people have opted out, we can see that there's less than 15% of the actual Black and South Asian community at a population level that have actually opted out, which shows that actually there's a significant number of people who haven't made a decision yet, and that's the individuals that we need to be encouraging and talking to about stimulating that conversation about organ donation with.
One of the reasons often cited for opting out is religious and cultural beliefs. Muhammad Shabir Usmani from Maidstone in Kent is encouraging Muslims to consider becoming organ donors.
Saving people's life is very important. Quran says saving a single life is equal to save the whole humanity. As for organ donations, it is permitted in Islam. The scholars across the globe, senior scholars, they agreed to that the people are allowed to donate their organs wherever they want to.
The latest estimate is that there are 5,000 people in the UK waiting for a kidney transplant alone. More than 1,700 of those are from a Black, Asian or minority ethnic background. Each person who donates their organs could end up saving the lives of up to 9 other people. It would only take a few hundred people to change their mind to help change the lives of those still waiting. Amani Khan, ITV News.
Now, this summer you could be fined £100 if you use a disposable barbecue on or off Brighton and Hove beaches in council-owned parks.
Yes, it's after councillors voted to ban the use of them as they cause damage to grass and are a danger to wildlife and are considered a fire hazard.
Well, people in the city were consulted on the plans and nearly 80% said they were in favour of the ban, as Charlotte Wilkins reports.
Police officers move in to extinguish a barbecue on the beach in Brighton during lockdown, a sight which may become more common after the City Council voted to ban disposable barbecues on the city's beaches and parks.
The first problem we have is rubbish in Brighton and Hove. Last summer we had record-breaking levels of rubbish, hundreds and hundreds of tonnes of waste left on our beaches after sunny weekends, which is really unacceptable. And unfortunately, disposable barbecues take up a lot of space, they're completely unrecyclable, and they caused a fire at one of our depots. Also in the summer, because there's thousands and thousands of them on this beach, on a warm night, there's a sort of toxic fog of smoke over the beach, which is really unpleasant.
Barbecues of any kind will also be banned on beaches between the two piers and at a number of other locations in the city. And if people are caught, then they could be fined £100. But what do people visiting the beach think of the tighter controls?
I don't agree with it, but then at the same time I do for the litter inside of it, but people don't pick up their litter afterwards.
Yes, no, I think that's great because people were just leaving them, and quite often you just find the grill there. It can get caught in the feet of the wildlife. It's just an environmental hazard.
Me personally, I think it's bang out of order, really. I think they're great, fantastic.
But anything that reduces litter on the beach, I'm in favour of. So.
The council is considering putting in communal grills and fire pits, which would allow people to have a barbecue if they don't have a garden or outdoor space. And non-disposable barbecues will still be able to be used after 6 p.m. in permitted areas. Restrictions will come into force at the beginning of July. Charlotte Wilkins, ITV News, Brighton and Hove.
And coming up in 8 minutes, it's the ITV Evening News. To tell us more, here's Mary Nightingale.
On the programme, we'll have the very latest on the police investigation after a toddler was killed in a dog attack at her home in Merseyside. The family of 17-month-old Bella Ray Birch described her as much loved and said she would be never forgotten.
I couldn't imagine how they're feeling. It must be such a blow to them, so devastating.
Jurors are shown chilling CCTV of an alleged terror suspect's journey to the constituency office of the murdered Southend MP Sir David Amess. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge continue their Caribbean tour as they move from Belize to Jamaica. And we will be on the red carpet at the premiere of season 2 of the hit show Bridgerton. So do join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
Now, at one point, it was home to nearly 1,000 people. 324 families took shelter in the tunnels beneath Ramsgate. From an original railway tunnel, Kent coal miners dug 2.5 miles of tunnel to give shelter from the air raids of World War II.
Well, some of those people returned today, some for the first time in decades, to revisit what was known as Tunnel Town. Tony Green met them.
The Rats returned today to Ramsgate and the largest network of civilian tunnels from World War II, where hundreds of people would take shelter from the Luftwaffe. The kids who were kept safe here were affectionately known as Tunnel Rats. Today they were back as guests of honour of the volunteers who take people on tunnel tours.
Martin, this was obviously once an old railway tunnel, but it became more famous during World War II as a shelter when this whole complex became known as Tunnel Town.
That's right, yes. Council had agreed to the tunnels being built, deep shelter, never gave it a lot of thought to what would happen if people lost their homes. And they knew it was very safe in here, and they all started coming in.
People are coming again now, aren't they? Mostly for World War II nostalgia?
Yes, they come from all over the place.
And today's visitors had a special link to the tunnel, none more so than Ken Gower, the little boy in this photograph, who came here from his home in Australia.
My mother was a brilliant woman. I mean, she was so funny, and I think that's why we were chosen for the photo, simply because if you look at the photo closely, there's nobody behind us. It was definitely a posed photograph.
So what's it like for you to actually be here again after all these years?
It's sort of mixed feelings, really. I think this is the most exciting thing that's ever happened to me.
The sight and smells of the tunnel brought back memories for other visitors.
I feel a bit shivery, actually. It's an emotional day.
I didn't like sleeping down here, but it was safe, you know, with the sirens going. It was best to get down here.
I live just on the cliff just above here, and I've never been down here before. It's the first time, but it won't be the last. You know.
Today's event was supposed to take place 2 years ago, but was cancelled because of COVID. But this generation has lived through worse, and they relived it today. Tony Green, ITV News, Ramsgate.
That must have been so strange, you know, growing up like that and knowing what was happening and just being so young.
It's just a weird feeling you would imagine going back and going through it again.
I know, because it's just like any childhood memory, isn't it?
But just really interesting. Yeah. Now, we're going to change the tone slightly because I've been waiting a long time to say this sentence.
24 hours.
24 hours. A pair of overweight armadillos have successfully slimmed down, having been put on a fitness programme.
Now, twins Eddie and Patsy piled on the pounds during their Christmas hibernation, didn't we all? So they were put on a strict diet by zookeepers at Drutillas in Alfriston. They've lost the grand total, Matt, get this, 200 grams between them.
Which is roughly...
So like a pot of yoghurt.
Right.
Because Okay, I didn't know how big an armadillo was, so
I wasn't going to bring this up.
No, I know you were being a gentleman,
Okay.
but I thought they were kind of like going to be really big creatures.
You said you thought they were human-sized.
Well, I did. I thought they would be about this big.
That would be
So
scary.
when I found out they'd lost kind of the equivalent of a little
Bag of
yogurt
crisps.
pot, I was like thinking, well, I'll eat us now.
Anyway, what have you got for us? Save us all, please.
I'm afraid I'm really going to take the tone of the show down. I want to talk about what's been going on in the Antarctic and Arctic because they've been having some extreme heat waves.
That's important.
So let's take a look now. So in the eastern Antarctica, they have had what's been described as unprecedented warmth. 40 degrees above average. In Fahrenheit, that's around 70 degrees above where they'd normally be at this time of year. And to look at a specific Vostok, which is in the centre of the ice sheet there, normally minus 50 odd at this time of year, minus 17.7 on Friday, the highest temperature they've ever recorded. It broke the previous March record by 15 degrees. And of course, they're in their autumn now. They should not be breaking all-time records. On the other side of the globe, you've got the Arctic, 30 degrees above average, not quite as extreme, but it's threatening the sea ice. So if you melt the sea ice, that's really bad because instead of reflecting the sun's energy, the seas absorb it, and that can unfortunately exacerbate the problems that we're already seeing with climate change. So some really serious stuff. So I'm sorry that was a bit of a change from armadillos, but I just thought it was important to mention it.
Very important and very worrying. But let's just have a little look at what the weather's going to do a little bit closer to home. With the full forecast, of course, here's Holly.
Feels like home, whatever the weather. Valent Boilers and Heat Pumps sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
Well, no shortage of spring sunshine today, and there's more where that came from. In fact, I think throughout this week, through the weekend, we should continue to see a lot of bright weather. There may well be a bit more cloud around at times, but some good spells of sunshine for the most part. Chilly by night, I think the continued risk of some rural frost and also a bit misty on occasion, I think, as well. But basically, high pressure is in charge, keeping weather fronts at bay. At the moment, we've got a mild air mass feeding across us, temperatures peaking well today and tomorrow as well. And then we pull in just some slightly fresher air, so temperatures do tail off slightly for the tail end of the week, but still, I think, pretty pleasant. Although always feeling chillier where you've got the breeze coming in off the sea and you're exposed to the easterly. So out there this evening, clear skies, turning a bit misty in places, and of course temperatures falling away. So I think values typically in towns and cities down to mid-single digits, but we could see a touch of frost out in the countryside on the grass, for example. As we start tomorrow morning, on a bright note, some mistiness around initially, that will lift and clear, and then basically it's rinse and repeat. Much like today, a lot of sunshine to be had. Temperatures again doing best inland, a little fresher for coastal areas, but we're likely to see values perhaps even sneaking a little bit higher than today. Our high tide times, what have we got? Brighton there, 2:05, and again at 2:27 into the afternoon. And the outlook, well, I have put a couple of sunny spell symbols on here just to give you that sense that we may well see a bit more cloud at times as we head through this week. Maybe even a rogue shower perhaps on Thursday, but I think that's very unlikely, to be honest. Mostly very spring-like weather, but still some chilly nights.
Valent sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
And you're up to date in the southeast. In just a moment, the ITV Evening News.
So I'm just imagining human-sized armadillos. They would be really scary.
They would be really scary, but please do not have nightmares.
Don't have nightmares. Do join us again tomorrow. That's it for now. Have a
See
good
you
one.
tomorrow. Bye-bye.
They'd be like this.